So thank you all so much for joining us for tonight's program, where we're going to get some writing advice from author Karen Traub. But before we introduce Karen, it is my pleasure, my privilege, my honor to introduce our facilitator, author Dale T. Phillips, who has published novels, short story collections, poetry, nonfiction, and over 80 short stories. Stephen King was Dale's college writing teacher, and since then, Dale has found time to appear on stage, television, radio, in an independent feature film, and even compete on Jeopardy, where he lost in spectacular fashion. Dale is a member of many writing groups, including the Sisters in Crime and Mystery Writers of America. And Dale has traveled to all 50 states, as well as Mexico, Canada, and throughout Europe. And I neglected to mention, I want to thank the Friends of the Tewksbury Library for sponsoring today's program and sponsoring almost all of our programs here at the library for adults, for teens, for kids, both in person and virtual. We couldn't do what we do without the Friends and their support. So all 33 of us who are watching live and the many more that will watch the recording, let's give a big virtual round of applause to Dale and Karen for joining us tonight. And Dale, you can take it away. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Robert, for that enthusiastic intro, and thank you everyone for attending. We've got a great guest tonight, Karen Traub. She's a 2021 graduate of the Newport MFA program. She lives in Western Mass with her husband, Frank, and her 4-foot-long python named Chloe. Her poetry and prose have been published in places like Brevity, an online magazine, Uniquely Quabbin magazine, and in Quabbin Quills anthologies, and I think we'll want to hear more about that. She's currently working on a memoir about her local library. Interesting. When not writing, Karen can be found digging through old town records, dressing up like people from the past, or belly dancing. So there we go. Everybody give her a nice welcome.
Thank you. Thanks, Dale. And thanks, everybody.
Okay, Karen, I guess our first thing is, how did you come to be a writer? Were you 6 years old and the muse came down and smacked you aside the head, or what?
I love this question because I've been in a lot of classes, a lot of writing classes with a lot of people who always knew they wanted to be a writer from the time they were very, very young. I was not that person. I never wanted to be a writer. I always loved to read, but that's what I enjoyed. I enjoyed reading, taking in the story. I never thought that I would be the one to tell the story until I lived a story that I really needed to tell. When I finished school, I got through school writing my term papers and my essays. And when I graduated, it was goodbye writing. I never want to have to do that again. But then I was a library trustee in my town, and we tried to build a new library, and it failed spectacularly in a tie vote, 522 to 522. And
Wow.
and people were fighting. The town was divided into yeses and nos. And I thought, this is a story. I've got to tell this story. So I sat down to start writing it, and nothing came out, just nothing. None of that, none of what I learned in school seemed right. I couldn't.
You have to prime the pump.
Do you ever? I was just stuck. When I was in school, my mom helped me write my papers a lot, but now my mom was gone. And so it was up to me. So I started attending workshops. The first one that I attended was a free workshop at Bay Path University. They have an MFA program there in creative nonfiction. When I heard the term creative nonfiction, I was like, that's it. That's what I want to write. I want to write nonfiction, but I want it to be creative. I want it to be interesting. And a fabulous writer, I'm going to share some of my books. some of my favorite books to read. This is by Suzanne Strumpeck-Shea, and she was one of my first teachers. She came to our library actually, and she brought bags and bags of books, and she talked about books. She talked about how she became a writer. She was one of those people who at 6 knew she was going to be a writer. And she told the story of her life in such a way that made it seem possible that I could do it. If she could do it, I could do it. And so I started taking workshops, and I was terrible. I was terrible. I don't know how many dancers there are in the audience tonight, but a lot of people have a fear of dancing. For me, dancing always came naturally, but writing did not come naturally to me. Writing for me was what dancing is for a lot of people. I stumbled, I stuttered, I stepped on feet, I said the wrong thing, I couldn't get the words out. I made every mistake that a new writer can make. I embarrassed myself reading publicly, because you go to a class and you take a workshop and you share your writing. And I had something that was just horrible, and I went ahead and shared it. And I realized that that's really part of the process is that in learning, you have to be able to put yourself out there in a sometimes embarrassing sort of a way.
You
So
have to have the courage to fail.
exactly, exactly. And they say it's not failure until you stop trying. So
It's
with my
feedback. Yeah,
writing,
you're getting feedback and you go, well, that didn't work. Now I know something that doesn't work. Now let's move on to the next thing. Absolutely.
exactly. So I, kept on taking classes and workshops, and I would go to these workshops, and the other people in the workshops, the leader would give a prompt, and people would just go. Their hands would be flowing. They'd in 20 minutes they'd have 4 pages written, and I would have
I hate
some
them.
tiny little, my name is, just so bad. So the best advice I got early on was to keep writing, just keep doing it, keep writing, and keep writing what you can't shut up about. That is something that
Yeah,
Stan,
good.
my first teacher, said over and over again. And when I would hand in these essays or these pieces of writing that were pretty bad, she would write in big bold letters, keep writing, with an exclamation and maybe even a heart or something. And that is exactly what I needed. I needed to keep doing it. I needed to keep on doing it and failing and trying again and trying different things. And I know that in our audience tonight, we have probably fiction, nonfiction. I saw there were quite a few poets there.
Yep.
Um, that I explored all genres, and I tried to find the fun in writing, and little by little.
That's critical. Yeah, that's very important. Too many people get so discouraged and they treat it like it's a job or something. And you gotta really enjoy it, folks. You're gonna be stuck with this for the rest of your life. This is an addiction. You better learn to love it.
That's right. That's right. And I found that I've always loved learning. So I loved the process of learning. When I found out about the Newport MFA, I thought, writing classes in the mansions of Newport overlooking the water, because the classes were on the campus of Salve Regina University. So I don't know if people know that beautiful the sea walk where you can walk along, and look at the ocean.
How do you get any work done?
Oh, it was very inspiring. Lots of ideas. And it was great to be a student again. And I encourage anybody who's thinking about writing or who is writing, if you get discouraged, get yourself in a workshop, get yourself in a support group, even have one friend who will just say, you know what, keep going, keep going. I have a friend that I meet with every Sunday at 9:15 a.m. We meet on Zoom. And she is also working. She started out in memoir and she switched over to fiction. And I'm writing memoir. And we meet every week. And some weeks we got nothing. Didn't write, couldn't think of anything. But by the end of the time that we talk to each other, oftentimes we both feel like, maybe I could try this, or maybe I'll sit down and just write stream of consciousness just to get something out.
Yeah, you start the pilot light again.
Yes, yes. That's a big part of the process, is starting the pilot light. Exactly.
Oh, I like that. I'm gonna trademark that. How did you find her?
We met, we were both on the board of directors at a camp that we had attended out in the Berkshires. And we were just chatting, and she said that she's an editor, and I said, oh, I'm an aspiring writer. And she said, oh, I've always wanted to write a book, but I've never really gotten around to it. And I said, oh, I'm working on a book. And we became friends, and we decided we would meet for a friendly dose of accountability every week. And one of the things that we did was, I don't know if you're familiar with the platform medium.com.
No.
It's Substack, right? Substack is a place where writers can, you can publish yourself or others can publish you. And Medium is a similar platform where, you can submit to a publication or you can just publish yourself. So I had been writing on Medium. I had been sort of experimenting with, little pieces of writing. And Jane and I decided to take on this challenge. It was 100 words a day for 100 days. And you had to write 100 words, no matter what.
Yep.
And as you know, 100 words, you could do that in your sleep. You could write anything. And we gave ourselves permission to write fiction, poetry, nonfiction, essays, commentary, whatever we wanted, as long as we wrote 100 words each every day and then published it on Medium. And this for 100 days, that's, what is that? A third of a year. That's
over 3 months. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then your habit is established, and it's easier to continue the habit than it is to break the habit. That's
right. So setting a small attainable goal for yourself is one of the things that really, really has helped me to just get those good writing habits.
Great piece of advice for our audience there, folks. And if you get stuck, that kind of thing, and what she said about accountability, find a partner, find a critique group, find some beta readers, first readers, whatever you need. But if you're accountable to someone on a regular basis, your internal morale says, oh, you've got to get something out there. You better get to work. I don't want to do it for the second week in a row and be that kind of person, right? So it gives you your own deadline, and then you start rising to the occasion, rather than just saying, I'll do it later. We all want to do it later. Everybody thinks they'll write later after they retire. They'll be dead before they start writing.
That's right. Well, when I started out, I thought, okay, well, I'm going to write my memoir. I should have it done this time next year. I should have it all completed.
Yeah.
And that was over 10 years ago. And
the first book is the hardest. Yeah.
Oh, so hard. And when I would describe to people what I wanted to write, I want to write about the library. I want to write about my experience. I want to write about my town, my life, my dancing. They would say, well, that sounds like about 4 different books. And I would say, no, I can only do one.
It can work, but you've got to practice on how to weave that all together.
That's right.
I had somebody I was helping, and he had a short story with 6 different great themes in it. And I said, that's too many. You've got to pare it down to easily half that, and you've got to find a way to work them that work with each other so that it's one beautiful piece. So by the end, everything works. And Absolutely. It sounds like you're trying to do the same thing, but that ain't easy. Boy.
It's not. So now, are you a writing coach? Is that, do you work with people?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's people like, you gotta be a motivational speaker for writers. And it's like, well, they need help. Most writers need help because something that you're going to touch on is that internal critic. And I think that's a concept we need to explore.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you brought that up. Yes, the inner critic is the voice inside that says, well, that's stupid. What an idiot. What? Why'd you say that?
Nobody's ever going to read this crap.
You can't write. Just give up. And I have heard that voice in my head many, many times, unfortunately. Over the past, I don't know, several years, and through many classes and workshops and support groups with other writers, one of the most fun things that I did was to give my inner critic a character. So who is my inner critic? I sat down one day and I imagined my inner critic, and my inner critic is a 1940s gangster named Bugsy. And he wears the suit and he comes.
I love it. I love it.
And he says, "You're no good. See, you don't know what you're doing. See." So I listened to Bugsy a little bit, and then I go up to him and I grab him by the lapels and I bring his face close and I say, "Now you listen to me. I'm the writer and I'm gonna write and you're not gonna stop me. So you just sit down in that chair and you just stay put." And then I proceed to write. I give myself permission to write anything, no matter how horrible,
Right.
stupid, terrible, boring. It's okay. It's okay, because as long as I'm writing and I can fix it later. And one of my teachers would say very graphically, puke it out and then clean it up.
Yep. You cannot edit a blank page.
Yep.
And Annie Lamott is famous for saying, you have permission to write a really crappy first draft.
Yes, absolutely. And sometimes you don't even know, or sometimes I don't even know what it is I'm writing. And I've been in classes where the comments were, "What is this?" And since then, I've learned that some writers, like Vladimir Nabokov, in his memoir, he didn't know what he was writing either. He would write about butterflies in one chapter. He'd write about the war in another chapter, but it all tied together. There's a way, it's what Dinty Moore calls the invisible magnetic stream. And what it is there's something that ties it all together. And I, as a writer, when I'm writing it, I don't always know what it is that's going to tie this story together. But by the time it's finished, I better know what it is.
Right.
But that it's really okay to really explore and just go out there, even if it doesn't make sense. You can always go back later and you read it and you'll see, like, I talked about coffee, and then I talked about coffee again, and this theme is something that runs through, and how can I work that to tie it all together into one piece of writing?
Well, that's because the really good stuff that we come up with comes from the subconscious. So we're not even, it's everything we have absorbed, all the human mythology, all the stories, all the concepts, all the life we've lived, all goes into that, but it's buried. And Stephen King said, it's like, you are the writer, you get a big bucket and you go down to the deep, dark caverns of the myth pool and you dip your bucket in that blackness and you come up to the light and you see what you brought back. And that's the good stuff.
Oh, I love that. Let's talk about Stephen King, because you had him as a teacher. That is amazing.
Right. And that's why I became a writer.
Wow. Well, On Writing was one of the first books that I was assigned for my MFA. And I don't know if everybody loves that book, if it speaks to every writer the way it spoke to me. But what that book did for me, first and foremost, was it demystified writing. It made it not scary, which is ironic from Stephen King to make something not scary. But he demonstrates in that book, he demonstrates good writing. not by, so it's memoir, it's his story of how he became a writer. But he doesn't say, I started writing when I was 5 years old. He tells a story about the farting babysitter. Do you remember that one? And you're laughing and you're crying. There's happiness, there's joy, there's his hard growing up situation in his life. Everything is in this story about the farting babysitter. And and a light bulb just went off in my head. Like, that's how you write. You want to grab your reader, you want to draw them in, you want to excite them, make them have emotions, but you also want to get your point across. And oh boy, nobody does that like Stephen King.
Yeah, people don't want to be lectured. They want to hear a story. And that's what he says is, let me tell you a story. And then he proceeds to go on and tell it. And usually it's very ordinary people suddenly slipping inch by inch into very extraordinary circumstances until they're hopelessly mired in this, whether it's supernatural, whether it's just circumstances beyond their control, but it's just now what? It's like Mark Twain said, take your protagonist, drive him up a tree, and then throw rocks at him. In other words, give him a lot of problems because people want to see that person having problems and then figuring out how to solve some of those problems if they can.
And I love how he says that no character should be all good or all evil.
Right.
That's very boring. And I know that in my early writing, everything I wrote about was kind of happy. Like I'm lucky. I have a happy life. I had nice parents. I grew up in it. And the comments I would get is like, so what? That's
yeah, I hear you.
So
absolutely.
There needs to be tension. We need to hear how how you screwed up, how you failed, what you want, what's driving you. Failures. Yeah, you need to have a trajectory. You need to have a story. And the story needs to have a drive and an arc.
Absolutely. And Kurt Vonnegut said it best. He said, make your main character want something really bad, even if it's only a glass of water, but make them really want something, and then show us why they're not getting it. What's in the way?
Yes.
That's your story, no matter what it is. And if people like your main character or are interested in your main character, they don't have to like them because there's a lot of unlikable protagonists. They will follow you through anything. No matter what you do with that character, if they're interested in what happens. I mean, look at all the really terrible people on a lot of modern stories, on television and in films and things like that, but they're still fascinating. That people want to know what happens. What happens?
Yes. Well, that brings me to one of the things that would happen to me in workshops is that I would write about the library. I was a trustee at the M.N. Spear Memorial Library when we were trying to build a new library. And oh, by the way, I'm a belly dancer and I dance with a live python. And in the classes, nobody wanted to hear about the librry. They wanted to hear about
straight to the python.
What does she eat? How big is she? What
do you feed it?
Yep.
Why doesn't it strangle you?
So the challenge really is to tell the story I want to tell about the library, but make it as interesting as a snake charmer, which is which would you rather read about, a snake charmer or a library trustee? Well, I happen to be both, sort of.
And that's where the weaving part comes in. And it's difficult unless you simply do a lot of it and work very hard at it.
Yes. And my challenge is still, to me, the thought of writing a book is, well, I have a couple of 100 pages written, but I don't have a manuscript yet. I don't have it together. And it's like the thought of building a house. It's just, to me, I know there are chapters, and the chapters are made up of pages, and the pages are made up of paragraphs, and the paragraphs are sentences and words. But getting it all together is just such a huge job for me that I've had to, break it down into small bits. And so that's what I've really been doing with the 100 words, starting with just 100 words a day and going from there. And then the next thing I wanted to do was to get published. So I went on Medium, where anybody can publish. And on Medium, when people read and like your stories, you get paid. You get pennies for a
Oh,
story. But
okay, so
for the
they will
first,
contribute. Wattpad was doing that too. I found out you can actually make some money from Wattpad.
wow.
And
I,
Andy Weir did The Martian that way. He put his story out bit by bit and got feedback on things and made it better and better until he was able to publish it and get a regular contract with a traditional house.
wow. And what's the name of that again?
The Martian.
No, the platform that he
Oh,
put it on.
Wattpad, Wattpad.
Oh, okay. I'm not familiar with that.
Now, this is the thing in writing, folks. This is the great part, is that new tools and techniques come out every day. And there's always more to learn. There's always something cool. You're like, oh, I've hit a block. And like the next day, oh, look, now something new to try. Let's give that. And there is no such thing, like Karen said, as failure. It's feedback. And you can try 100 things and none of it is fatal. You could, do something stupid, but just keep going. Someone I know was afraid of publishing her technical book, even though she was a superb guru at it. And I said, look, this is what you know. You put it out. And if you get feedback that says, this is the most terrible book I hate, you just take it down. You just unpublish it. But when you publish it, you can also do a second edition, a third edition, a fourth edition. You can add to it and keep improving, in a process, integral process, step by step. Or you can just unpublish. But don't be afraid to put it out there. We have a question from Allison. How to protect one's work on these new platforms? Great question.
Well, I can't speak to the legal aspects of that question, and maybe you can, Dale, being more in the business. I believe that anything you write, is your property on those platforms. But there is always the danger that, somebody, I mean, I suppose that it would surprise me if somebody did republish something that I wrote. I can't imagine that happening. I guess I would be a little flattered.
Until you get famous or rich.
Right. Yeah. Do you have comments on that? Do you have any more?
Yeah. Like you said, as soon as you write something, it is, quote, copyrighted. Proving it in court, another matter. You can go through a regular copyright procedure, which is fairly inexpensive and should be done when you have work that you really want to say is mine. Yes, when you put anything out in public, the potential is there for, piracy, for comments, for whatever. So always read the terms of service, always know what you're getting into. Check what everybody else says about this. What are the pitfalls and, potential dangers of publishing on X? Do Google searches. The internet is your friend in some cases. So find out before you just put it out. And if you're putting out things like stories and things, if you publish on a medium like that, that is burning you for what's called first North American serial rights, which if you're selling short stories, they want to see original unpublished work from any medium to get you the top level of payment. Anything after that, they would consider a reprint. So always know your terms of service, know what you're getting into. But if you're using it, like you say, as a place to get started, to carry you through to the next step, then check it out, definitely.
Mm-hmm. And from your experience in the world of publishing, how big a problem is that kind of theft of?
Well, it used to be sporadic, but now with AI, they're just stealing everything. And there are some people that on Amazon, what they're doing is just taking text from somebody else's work, slapping their own cover on it, putting their name on it, and putting it up. And trying to stop them is like playing whack-a-mole. And Amazon, unfortunately, isn't as jumping on them as it should be. So it does happen. But then there's also the reverse case. Like Neil Gaiman said, gee, when my work started getting pirating, my sales went up. So if you're not known, if you don't have a big following, they probably won't be stealing your work. People do this in the hopes of making money. So if you're not making money, why are they going to steal your stuff in hopes of making money? Because if nobody's reading you, then nobody's definitely going to read them. So I would not worry about it. Sure, somebody might steal it and put it up on those massive pirate sites. So what? Write more work.
Yep. Yep. I see somebody asked, what are the names of those platforms? So the one I mentioned is medium.com. And the one Dale mentioned is Wattpad. And I assume it's wattpad.com.
Yeah. And there's Substack also.
Yep.
And I'm sure there's probably half a dozen others. Like I say, nobody knows everything, and new things keep popping up all the time. That's the great thing. And it's a wonderful thing because there's so many tools and techniques to help the writer these days. And a lot of them are free. People go, well, what does it cost to publish a book? And I go, well, anywhere from 0 to thousands. Depends on how much you want to do yourself. Yeah, Wattpad, no space. How much work do you want to do yourself, and how much do you want to write a check for to have somebody else do it? But folks, don't pay a lot of money simply for publishing a book. It is something you can do yourself. I do explain it in some of my books. And there are a lot of predatory companies out there who know that there's a lot of people very desperate to have a published book out and don't quite know how to do it. So they take advantage of these people and charge them thousands of dollars for simple tasks that are doable by each person. So always check with like Predators and Editors. That's a website. Because there's, I'm an agent and I just contacted you to sell your work to Hollywood. Beware, folks. Just beware. Writer beware is another one.
Yes. Let's see. I was going to go back to the inner critic again. Yep. Another way that I fought against the inner critic was, let's see, to get published. If you want to get published, go ahead and get published. So I started on Medium, where I can publish myself. And then started networking with other writers to find out, other sources that would accept my work. And I've written for a couple of local magazines, and they're always looking for writers. There's this one that I write for now is called Uniquely Quabbin, and it's a regional magazine about this area. And I'm very interested in the history, so I have submitted a couple of articles. And I got paid $50 for these articles. Once you get paid for writing, you are a professional writer.
Yes, you are.
Even if it's $2,
That's what Stephen King said. If you write something and somebody buys it and you cash the check and pay the light bill, you are a professional writer. Thank you.
That's right. And I hope you're getting rich at writing, but most of us are not going to make a living through our writing. We're not expecting to. I think a lot of us write because we have something we need to say, that we want to say to the world, to people who will read what we need to say. And it's not about the money. And I think probably everybody who's done any kind of writing understands that if you work hard, you can make money at it. And it is possible, but it's not easy.
I tell people how to do that in my books. It's like, okay, folks, you can make money, but if you want to do that, there is a big divide between art and commerce. And if you want to go the commerce route, it is a hamster wheel of non-stop work and promotion and marketing. And once you get on that wheel, you got to keep running and running and running ever faster to maintain the same place. And if you ever step off the wheel, everything collapses, your sales go down, and then you get depressed. And you go, why did I do all that work? So I'm like, okay, decide what you want to do, decide what your goals are. And a lot of people who are trying to make money, I have talked to, and they're not the happy writers. The happy writers are the ones that just do the things they want and not worry about how commercial it is. Because I've seen so many commercial writers that I know also get dropped by their publishers. Despite having outstanding success, it's not successful enough for the publisher. And I'm like, and they're miserable. You know, they come up and they, Dale, what do I do? And I'm a professional writer of 20 years coming up and say, Dale, what do I do now? I got dropped by my agent, my publisher, my editor. I'm like, well, okay, sit down, breathe. Well, let's work through the next steps.
Yeah.
Oh, Dean has a question for you. Do you have a dream project that you have yet to publish? I'd say for you, that's your library memoir.
Yes, yes. And so as I said, it almost feels like a curse that there's this story that I'm trying to tell about the library. And every time I try to say it, it just comes out flat and boring. In the last few years, so I'm also interested in local history. And in the last few years, I've been researching some people that were affiliated with my library 100 years ago. And with the encouragement of my friend Jane, the writer, who's got a great imagination, she said, you know, what would happen if you wrote a letter to this woman who lived 100 years ago, who was a trustee at the same library that you were a trustee at? Try writing it in a letter. And I did. And oh boy, things just really opened up.
Right.
The story, it came alive because in a letter, I can say, Dear Laura, you know, today I fed my snake and I'm thinking about the time when I was involved in the library. And in a letter, you can jump from one subject to another, but it works. And I've always loved writing letters. I've always enjoyed writing letters. So now I'm at the point where I think that my library story is going to be told through these letters. And that's a very exciting.
An epistolary work, yeah.
Yes,
yes. That works. That's a very good way to do it, because that can work because you can have all the different viewpoints, the different timelines, the different subjects, like you say, and it'll make sense by the end. But it's like a Ken Burns documentary, you know, you're getting snippets from all of this. And the idea is that by the end, they have all woven together and you have the overall arching theme of the project, and there it is.
Yes. I love this question, though, a dream project. In one of the classes that I took, one of the assignments we had was to go to a bookstore and just look at the books and see which ones you're drawn to. And I saw a book, I don't think I have it here, but just the size, the color, the title, the title was The Dangers of Passions.
Was that in the romance section?
It was the transcendental relationship between Margaret Fuller and I forget one of the, pardon me?
Wow.
But yeah. So like the title was, it was Dangers of Passion, which immediately drew me. And then it was historical. But the book itself was like a beautiful book. And so very early on, I started picturing the book that I want to write and imagining what that book will look like, how big it will be, how, you know, what will it look like on the shelf? I want a book with a great title. So dreaming about what it is I want to write and turning the dream into a reality is one of the things that is helpful in the process of enjoying the writing, not just feeling battered and tortured by the. It's hard work. I mean, it's definitely hard work for sure.
I think a lot of writers that have the dreams when they go into the bookstore year after year and they see these books and they go, you know, I could do this, and I've done that. You know, from all those years of the dream to being in these bookstores with your books on the shelf, and they go, oh, independents can't get into bookstores. I go, really? Let me show you some pictures.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Yeah, it can be done. It's not easy, but it can be done. Yep. And that's what you do to make a dream come alive. Work on it. If it's a real dream, what you do is change it into a goal. You break it down step by step into achievable steps. And then you give that step a timeline. I will research this. I will give myself 2 weeks to research X. I will give myself, like you said, 100 words for 100 days. And after that, I realize I have something now, and some things might start making themselves apparent within the context of the framework. And then you just take it step by step until you achieve your dream.
Right.
Yes, we have Adair. Would you recommend a writer's workshop that is worthy of attending? Or one online would be perfect, but do they exist?
Ooh, this is a great question. So for me, what I did was I went to my favorite writers and I found which of them were offering workshops, because find the person that writes the books that you want to, that writes the way you want to write. And then if they are a teacher, check them out. They might not be perfect for you. But I've been to so many different workshops and classes. The ones that are right are right. And not everybody in the class will find the workshop as enriching as you will. One of the books, so this is Harley and Me, Embracing Risk on the Road to a More Authentic Life. And this is by Bernadette Murphy. And she wrote this book. She was a middle-aged woman, had gone through a divorce, was trying to find herself. And she found herself by learning to ride a motorcycle and going out into the world. This is a fascinating book. And Bernadette was, she was my advisor, my MFA advisor. And so I was lucky enough to find somebody who wrote a book. This is a beautiful book, and it's exciting, and it's a memoir about a middle-aged white woman like me who is, who has been on an experience that she wants to share. Another one is, this is The Electric Woman, a memoir in death-defying acts by Tessa Fontaine.
Now that's how to grab somebody, folks, right there. How to put a cover that grabs people.
Absolutely. Everything about this book appealed to me. Now, it might not appeal to you or to the next person, but this book grabbed me. And it's also a memoir about her mother dying, and she joins the circus sideshow and becomes the Electric Woman.
I might have to read that, actually.
Oh, it's wonderful. So then I found out that Tessa Fontaine is not only an amazing author, she's a teacher, a writing teacher. And so during the pandemic, I was able to take a writing class with Tessa, who wrote a book that is so close to what I want to write, something exciting, but also real that, that happened to me in my experience. So I guess I would say to everybody who's on the call tonight that, whatever your genre is, if you're a poet, find a poetry teacher that writes poems that speak to you. Find out how they do it. And I think Stephen King talks about this. Pull it apart.
Oh, he's actually brilliant at poetry as well. So.
Oh, he is amazing. Yes, but dissect your favorite writers. Why do you like them? Why does it appeal to you? How can you learn those skills? And then I guess, there really are a million workshops out there. I've been really lucky to find teachers. Eleanor Lippman is one of my favorite novelists. And I saw she was teaching a class in Dingle, Ireland. And I happened to be lucky enough at a point in my life where I was able to travel to Ireland to take a writing workshop with Eleanor Lippman.
Wow.
And that doesn't happen to everybody, but there are plenty of writing books. There are local classes. Libraries have wonderful programs. And I would say to start with the free ones, really. The first class I went to was at a community college, and it was like a writer's day, and it was free for the community. And there were like 4 different workshops, and you just got a sample of, a little taste of different teaching styles and
do the
different
starter
classes.
pack and see what catches your imagination.
Yeah, absolutely. I've taken some classes that have done absolutely nothing for me as well.
Yeah.
But I always try to get
But you've
something
got to
out.
get through those. I mean, how do you know until you do it? And
That's
yeah,
right.
you might find something that doesn't. And when it doesn't work for you, leave it and go on to the things that do work for you.
Yep.
I put in of course, Dean Wesley Smith has many, many, many craft videos and online courses that you can sign up for. He will actually mentor you through your writing as well. So Dean, for writing sci-fi and fantasy, that's the first place to go. Dean Wesley Smith. He's been writing for over 40 years. He has a couple hundred books and hundreds of stories, and he has been generous in sharing his information about the craft and how to be prolific, how to be productive, and how to make money at this. So, Tatiana says, nice events that are free on Eventbrite. Good, that's a good source. Thank you for that. They write pieces according to the theme of the night. Good, that really gets the flow going, gets the pump primed. And they will share pieces and do open mics. Terrific.
Open mics are a great way to share your work.
That's for the brave. You got to be brave.
Gotta be brave. Absolutely. Let's see. So, also, so at libraries, I know that like the Forbes Library in Northampton, I believe they have a writers group that's virtual. And talk about accountability. The people just join together in this at a particular time on Zoom and write independently. And I'm not sure if they even share anything, but
I think it's a write-in. They have what's called a write-in. People just do that, and then they write, and they don't necessarily have to share or critique each other's work, but they're feeling that feeling of sharing by being with others who are doing the same thing.
really, every writer has to find their own path. And a lot of teachers have talked to me about your habits, your writing habits. And this is something that I've learned over the years, that my time of day to write is early morning, after my first cup of coffee. Like on my second cup of coffee, that's when I'm ready to sit down and really get to work. I'm too tired at night. I get distracted during the day, but early mornings, my brain is just in the right place of being relaxed, but
yeah, before all the detritus of the day just comes invading your mind and cluttering it up. That's great. Yeah, once the caffeine gets its hooks into you, then go for it.
That's
Absolutely.
right. But that's not true for, for everybody.
Yeah.
Some people, they like to have their spot to write and everything has to be just right. Other people can write anywhere, anytime. Some people like to write in coffee shops. Some people, if you're a parent or a working parent, you just write whenever you can find the time, late at night or on the bus, or just any, steal any moments that you can for writing. My kids are grown, and so I do have like a little bit more time than I had 10 years ago,
Yeah, Harlan Ellison would write in bookstore windows to demystify the process. People like, oh, you've got to be in the ivory tower, you got to have this, and he'd just set up a typewriter, put in a piece of paper, and say, give me a subject. And he would whip out a story, usually that it would be sellable. And Jane Austen was so busy with her household duties, she didn't have a room, like Virginia Woolf said, of her own to sit down and write. She opened a notebook on the sideboard, and she'd be thinking about it as she went through her chores. She'd pass by and scribble down a paragraph. She wrote all her books that way. So there are no excuses for not getting it done, no matter how you do it. People have written, like you say, on the subway. Harlan Ellison wrote when he was in basic training in the Army with a board across his knees in the latrine at night and getting into fistfights because people were like, shut up with the typing, we want to sleep. So you can do it. You've got to have that desire, and nobody can give you that desire. That has to spark within you to do it.
That's right. And what does Stephen King say about good writers can become better writers, but no, let's see, bad writers can become better writers, but good writers don't necessarily become great writers unless they really have more than just the writing skills.
the thing is, people shouldn't understand it as talent. Talent seems to be, oh, you're born with it. You're born with, no. Writing is a skill. It is a learned skill, like learning bowling or learning anything. It is acquired practice, diligent, focused practice over a period of time. He said it's like lifting weights. You know, you don't go to the gym and immediately start pressing a few hundred pounds. You start slow and you work up to it bit by bit, and you have these goals and you increment those goals, and that's how you get better, day by day, word by word, paragraph by paragraph.
That's right. That's right. And getting the feedback from readers is so important because you just don't know necessarily what your strengths or your weaknesses are until somebody gives you that feedback. I worked with a writing coach for a while, which was so helpful because she got me. She could tell me, she could look at something and say, this is terrible, this is boring. And I would laugh. It didn't hurt. The way she said it was with appreciation and respect for me,
Yeah.
and also like a kind of warmth, like, oh, this is terrible, throw it away. And I loved working with her because I felt comfortable when she would give me criticism.
Because she's honest. She's
Yes.
not caring about your feelings, because that's not what it's about. She's caring about the final result, and she's helping you to get better, and you understood that.
Yes, and doing it gently and with a lot of humor and warmth. But she would correct, well, she would rework some of the things that I had written. And over time, I learned that I have, and I'm sure everybody else has little quirks in the way I write. Certain little things like, I'm not great at dialogue. Dialogue is really, it's important to put dialogue in almost anything that you write because it brings a deeper dimension to it. And I would have like a long, like, my mother said, blah, 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 blah. And my coach would say, break that up, have her say something, and then she looks away, and then, continue the quote. So that was one of my little quirks, that working one-on-one with a coach, I was seeing that pattern, and then I could work on it. And then I would have her voice in my head, like that sentence is ridiculously long, or there would be one word that just sort of bothered me, and I would just keep going, and she'd say, that word really bothers me. And so I learned to trust that voice when I hear that voice, like, ooh, something's just not smooth there, go back and fix it.
Right.
Having that feedback was super helpful.
Yeah. And folks, a great tip for that is read it out loud. When
Yes.
you read your work out loud, your ear will pick up on the stuff that your mind just glided right over the stuff, but your ear will go, oh, no, that's not good. Oh, when you brought out Harley and Me, that reminds me of the old classic, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance by Robert Pirsig. That is probably a nice pair of books to read, because one from the male perspective, like an older male coming to terms with life and his position by maintaining your motorcycle, and your friend by riding the motorcycle, having that adventure and attaching meaning to that for her whole life.
Yes, yes. I have a couple more books I'd like to share. This one is by Dinty Moore, The Story Cure.
The beef stew guy?
Yeah. Yeah,
Sorry.
I don't know what his parents were thinking.
Yeah.
So this is The Story Cure, a book doctor's pain-free guide to finishing your novel or memoir. And this one, like Stephen King, again, it takes the scariness away. He jokes about being a book doctor, and he has different, so he has like cures, checkups, the lifeblood test, a strong skeleton, plot, and structure. So he uses writing a story. He uses the metaphor of being a book doctor in curing some of the typical ailments that new writers experience. And I've read through this book many times, and it's super helpful.
Thank you.
And
I'm going to
fun.
add that to my list of resources for writers.
Excellent, fun to read. And then I did want to talk about Quabbin Quills,
Yes,
which is,
please.
yes, thank you. So on my path to being published, I submitted some articles to different magazines. Oh, hold up the Story
Yep.
Cure again.
Dinty Moore. Just say
Didn't
beef
more.
stew. You can't go wrong with that.
Yep, yep. And he's written lots of books. He's very funny and he's a wonderful teacher. Actually, let's see, The Writer's Bridge, I believe it is a source online where they offer different classes. Some of them are free, some of them you sign up and pay for, but it's called The Writer's Bridge. And they usually do like a Tuesday afternoon workshop for people. That would be a great resource to check out.
Great,
So
thank you.
sure. Getting back to, so my path to being published, submitting to local magazines and to Dinty Moore's magazine online. And then I learned about some local people who got together and decided to create a publishing company, a nonprofit, volunteer-run publishing company to give new writers the chance to be published for the first time. Well, I just jumped on that. You better believe that they are absolutely supportive of new writers. They'll publish almost anything as long as it's coherent and not terribly offensive. But to see your name on a book for the first time is a really big
It's
deal.
great to
And
get that first start. Absolutely.
yes, yes. So the name of the group is Quabbin Quills, and they're local to my area out here in Western Mass. The Quabbin Reservoir is, you know, a large area, and the publisher is in sort of the North Quabbin area, and they work with young people. They have a scholarship that they work with high school students, so they get submissions from high school students, and then really anybody. They're very generous in the area that they cover. They're really out of the North Quabbin area, but some people have submitted from further away.
Mhm.
And as long as you're sort of, you know, within the theme,
They like regional, and regional is very fluid.
yes, thank you. That's very well said. So I have published with them. I've been in, I think, 4 of their anthologies, and they're really fun to read. So there's poetry, there's
Imagine this it's like a smorgasbord of all different things. So it's exciting.
this is the book to take with you on a trip when you're going, you know, a long trip. If you're riding a train or something and you just want to read through, some of the things are short, some pieces are longer, some are fantastic, some are, you can tell it's a novice, and you read it and you're like, whoa, well, I can do that. I can.
Just so.
And that's encouraging, actually, to read something that's published that you know, that makes you think, wow, if they can do that, I could do that as well.
It's
So
like playing an instrument. You don't really know how yourself sounds when you're practicing at home, but if you keep getting out and performing, you'll get the feedback you need, and then you want more of it, and I want to get better. I want to do this. Oh,
yeah,
she says, can you write the name of the book you're holding? Can you put it in
yes,
the chat, please?
sure. I think, let's see, I can actually put a link to Quabbin Quills, right?
Yeah, you should be able to paste it in there.
See. Oh, here, okay, so here are, copy.
Beatrice, like, you are moving. I can't see the book. So we'll put the link in there, Beatrice. Don't worry. And also with the recording too, or you can get a transcript from the chat, and the transcript would probably have the name right in there. But she's gonna enter that now.
Okay. So it didn't go
There
as
we
a
go.
hot link, but it is, yeah, so it's Quabbin Quills is the name of the publisher. And this particular one is Beyond the Pathway, but I think there have been 6 or 7 anthologies, and my work has been in probably 4 of them, the last 4.
Nice.
And because it's a volunteer organization, I've been able to serve on the editorial board. So that's a lot of fun, is, you know, reading other people's work and giving them feedback and doing some editing. That always helps your own work when you work with other people.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's a very supportive group. And I don't know if there are other groups. I assume there are other groups like that do publish.
Lots of people are doing anthologies. The trouble is that anthologies do not sell well. So they can't pay well. So people are like, well, why should I? It's like, but it is a pathway to publication, folks. I've been in numerous, from charity anthologies to, professional anthologies with big name writers and things like that. It's like, it's grist for the mill, folks. You got to keep doing it. It's another performance. It gets your name out there in another venue. It's another item in your store to show to people.
That's right. Dale, are you familiar with the chicken soup books?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And
Jack Canfield. And then all the imitators. Yeah.
Oh, well, I understand that they accept submissions from people, and that they pay. If you submit a story, they have a very easy to follow website, and they accept submissions from anybody. And that's a good way to sort of practice your skills and get some experience being published.
Find what you're interested in, and then find the markets for it. I will tell people, I'm going to enter one in now. It's called the Submission Grinder. It's at diabolicalplots.com. But if you look up the Submission Grinder, it gives you a search engine for fiction, nonfiction, poetry, whatever you've got. You enter all your criteria. It's this long, it's this type of thing. I want to get paid, anywhere from free to X amount minimum. And they will give you a list of all the markets, and you can exclude things too, that like they're not open for submission right now. They're never open. They're a terrible market. They'll give you all the markets that are doing that. And so when you have a piece of work, you immediately open this right up, go in, find something and submit, and go on to the next piece, get that finished, submit that, and keep them in rotation. So you got to talk now. I'm typing. So.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Have I shared all my books? I guess I would love to. I mean, I'm thinking about the comments of the people who are in this chat right now. There's sci-fi, there's poetry, there's memoir, and I imagine that people are at all different stages of the writing process, and everybody really writes differently. Some people will start on page 1 and they'll just go right through until the end. Some people will jump around. Somebody like me, I'll just have ideas, an idea board, and then you want to kind of find the invisible magnetic stream.
The thread that ties it all up. Do you have a vision board or an idea board or something like that?
Oh, yes, absolutely. That's one. So I'm really good at finding ways around the actual process of writing. I mean, I'm better about.
Oh, we all are. Yes, they're
now.
Called excuses.
Yes. In the early days, I would do everything. I would go to the bookstore and look for a book I liked. I would describe the book I'm going to write.
The house really needs cleaning right now.
Yes. So I love timelines. I love idea boards. I sometimes draw pictures, anything.
Wonderful.
Maps.
Yep.
I like maps.
Kind of like mind mapping, and you're doing it in 2 dimensions.
Yes. I love prompts. I don't know how you feel about prompts.
I love prompts too, because when somebody puts out a call for stories of this type and they say, we kind of like this, this, and this, that really helps me to go, oh, I think I can work with that. When everything's open, it was kind of like, I think it was Zen in the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. The students, he said, write about something. I don't know. Write about the school. I can't. Write about the wall of the school, the outside wall. I can't. Write about the bricks in the wall and the outside. I can't. Write about 3 rows down, the 4th brick in. And all of a sudden they were off and running.
Wow.
So specific. And that's what prompted them to get to it. Adore prompts. Allison says, from many sources. Yeah.
Yeah. And
they have books of prompts, folks. Writing prompts. If you get stuck, you can just get one of these books and go, oh, well, that gives me an idea.
The prompts, I like prompts, I like word counts, and I like deadlines. I feel like, as a dancer, I love free dancing and I love structured dancing.
Hmm.
But sometimes it's hard to do both at the same time. So I always give the example of the hokey pokey. When the hokey pokey, that's what it's all about, folks. Everybody knows that, right? But it gives you the structure, right hand in, right hand out, left hand in. But within that structure, you can put that hand in any old way. You can punch it in, you can dance it in, you can swoosh it in. There are so many ways. And for me, with writing, because my creative brain wants to just take off, and my structured brain is like, hey, wait a minute, what's going on? When I have the structure of a prompt and a word count, then my creative brain has that container to really work within it. And I find that that's when I get sort of my best work done, for
Yeah, we're
sure.
getting some great comments back. People, Mark says, he said, describe the tops of our dressers, and everybody goes, oh boy, there's a story. Yeah, thank you so much, Karen. Now, I'm going to say, Robert says we got to stop in a few minutes. So, folks, if you have last minute questions for Karen, or Karen, if you've got anything, how can people contact you? Please enter that in the chat. And any other final items that you'd like to impart?
Let's see. I want to encourage everybody to just keep writing. Just write what you can't shut up about. Write from the heart. You can write for yourself at first. Stephen King says this. First, you write for yourself with the door shut. Anything you
It's a
want.
diary, yeah.
But then when you're ready to share it with the world, you rewrite it for your reader. And that's where you get really the meaty, juicy stuff. And I know that everybody's on their own path, and if you just keep going, you will find your way. You'll absolutely find your way.
And there's no one right way, folks. Anybody that says that is wrong. There are so many different paths to writing, to publishing, to, succeeding, to having a career. But I want writers to have long, happy careers of doing this. And there are so many writers that are so full of angst and problems and agita over this or that, the process, the sales, this. And I'm like, look, find out what gives you joy and do that.
So I haven't written my book yet. I'm working on it. I'm getting there a little closer every day. But one thing I love writing is Facebook posts. I have so much fun. If anybody wants to follow me on Facebook, when I travel, when I go out to dinner with my husband, I try to write it in a way that has all the information, but is also engaging. And I've gotten great feedback on my Facebook posts. It's just something that I found, like, I like my voice on Facebook. And so I want to bring that into my writing outside of Facebook. But that's one of the ways that I can just practice every day, just getting some writing. If I can't write, I read. If I can't read, I go for a walk. And if I can't go for a walk, I try to do something in my life that's worth writing about. And that's one of the pieces of advice that I would share with people. Try to write every day. And if you can't write, definitely read, because reading is going to help your writing for sure.
Yeah, it's like, I want to be a magician like David Copperfield. The thing is, all the great writers show you how they do their act. That's it. They give you the manual. You just have to look at that and work through it and go, that's how they did that. I always tell people, get a half dozen books of the kind that you want to write. Find out how they open. Find out how they use dialogue. Find out how they develop character. Find out how they develop plot. What's the pacing like? Where are the plot twists coming in? How do they all wrap that up at the end? These are master classes, folks. They've all been done for you. That's all it takes. It's a library card.
I've found writers are very, very generous in sharing with others what they've learned. And I'm really grateful to be here tonight to be able to share with other writers what, what I've been given, the generous instruction that I've been given. So this,
Well, it
this
sounds
is
like some of our folks have found it very helpful. Thank you so much, Karen, for coming on tonight. I really appreciate it. And I
Thanks
think
for
Robert's
having
going to chime in here.
So, folks, let's give Karen and Dale another big virtual round of applause for a great conversation. I learned quite a bit, and it looks like we had a lot of audience engagement, which is great. Just as a reminder, look for an email from me later tonight with a recording and information about some other upcoming programs that might be of interest. And please don't forget to take the feedback survey when you exit the Zoom. Probably only take you about 60 seconds. It would be greatly appreciated. And finally, I wanted to mention that Dale will be back with us on Tuesday, August 26th at 7 o'clock. So 5 weeks from tonight. And Dale is bringing with him an audiobook producer named Scott Ellis. And I've always wanted to know what went into making, what goes into making an audiobook.
Oh, you will learn all the nuts and bolts of it. That's great. Karen met him because we were both at a writing retreat at the Haunted Mansion in Orange, and Scott was another one of the guests. And this is how I find the great guests. I go to these things, I find the fascinating people who know what they're talking about and go, hey, why don't you come on this show?
And by the way, Karen, I know it's a difficult time out there right now for libraries, and I just want to thank you for being a commissioner at the Mass Board of Library Commissioners. Thank you for all that you do and all the MBLC staff does. It is appreciated by the librarians, the library staff, and the patrons.
Thank you. Libraries are the best.
And thank you, Friends of the Library in Tewksbury.
Yes.
Yes, we thank our friends at the libraries as well. So thank you all so much, and I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their night. Thanks again, Karen. Thanks again, Dale. Bye-bye.
Keep
Bye-bye.
writing.
Keep writing. Keep at it.